Ellie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Sorry for immediately stealing the first question on your own podcast. I was like immediately in host mode. I was like, "Hi Nao, how are you doing?" I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful. You're just going back into the way round that it normally is. So thank you for being on the other side of it for me and being my first ever podcast guest.
Honoured.
No pressure from me. I feel like this is really full circle because you are my podcasting idol, both.
Look, I'll take both. What I will say is aim higher would be my polite suggestion. But thank you. I take that with great warmth. I've even got a proper mic, and that says a lot because usually I just half-arse things. But no, I've got a proper podcasting mic and everything.
We are honoured here at Straight From the Drafts. Thanks so much.
I didn't buy it for this, I would like to point out, but I love you so much I would have done. See how emotional I got?
Don't make me cry on my first interview, please.
Right, that's the goal now.
While we are just flirting, would you like to introduce yourself to the podcast audience?
Yes, hello, I am Ellie Kime from Eleanor Molly. That's my name. I am a personality business strategist and copywriter. Nao has caught me in between two stages of my business, although I say caught, but she actually has known every element of my crisis that I've been having deeply and intimately, so she knew exactly what she was doing. So currently I am a copywriter, but I'm transitioning into being a business personality strategist, which essentially means that I help small business owners put more of themselves into their business because your USP is you, and I think we've been really told to flatten ourselves or made to feel like we should flatten ourselves out of our businesses, and actually it's the thing that creates the most joy, creates the most connection, creates the most sales, and so I want more people to show more of themselves in their copy, their content, their communications, their business generally.
So excited for this new era of you.
Yay.
Whoop, whoop. I feel like it's been a long time coming, but also so obvious that like it's so exactly who you are and makes perfect sense. So
thanks. Yeah, it's a funny one because it's the same thing I've always done, but this was always the focus of my copywriting, which has been my career for a decade now. I know, how has this 18-year-old got a decade-long career? I'm also confused by that fact. But so the goal has always been to help people put more of their personality across. It's just the kind of the medium is shifting. So I completely agree in that it feels like the natural end point in a way that it was always, but also it feels terrifying to change something after 10 years.
And I do think it probably feels like a bigger change internally than
yes.
it will to everyone else will feel exactly the same. Like, yeah, duh, this is so Ellie. But, we must have the crisis first.
I think so. It's the natural. I mean, I did a philosophy degree, so I'm predisposed to a bit of an existential crisis anyway. But that has been this year. You know, that American TV show, This Is Your Life. If they presented me with This Is Your 2025, it would just be a book with the words crisis written on every page.
Well, we are recording this in December. It's quite a nice way to close the chapter that the crisis is pretty much over. Is that fair to say?
I like how you lost confidence in your own sentence halfway through. You were like, I fear there's going to be pushback on this. No, it definitely, the crisis with a capital C feels like is over. And now we're just back to everyday run-of-the-mill crises with a little c, which that's just being alive, isn't it? I can deal with that.
Yeah, I love that. That is adulting, unfortunately.
Which I didn't ask for, FYI.
Who signed up for this?
Exactly.
Well, I fear we may have given a bit of a spoiler of what you are going to share today. But
sorry, I got too excited. I'm sorry.
No, me too. Jump the gun. As I say, this is my first podcast interview, so, the structure will...
I fear I wasn't the best
fine.
guest to get on as somebody who cannot tell a story without veering off in about 8 directions and adding anecdotes that don't matter. So I fear we fucked up there. It's done now, isn't it? We're in
too deep. No, you are the perfect first guest. Because it's also less scary for me to yap to a very good pal. So for anyone who doesn't know, I have known Ellie for 2 years.
But it feels like a lifetime, am I right?
Well, I have forced myself to become a best friend. So it feels like we are closer than if we'd met each other in a business retreat circumstance 2 years ago. Okay, so we've already given a bit of a spoiler, but do you want to dive into your, I guess we're calling this self-trust story of the day? A time, maybe it was recently, Who knows? Or maybe it was a long time ago, a time when you've really had to have that self-trust, back yourself, and how it played out.
Yeah,
It was you.
of course. My self-trust story, your classic STS. Mine is, spoiler alert, I had a bit of a crisis this year. I know I've kept it really under wraps. But the thing is, actually, I joke, but I like that I'm fact-checking myself. I was like, no, but let's be real here, actually. I did keep it under wraps for a while publicly. And I think the key part of my STS, as the kids call it, is that the moment I really trusted myself and things started changing for me was when I started talking about it publicly. Now, one thing about me, that's a phrase I love to use, by the way, and I'll tell you about 8 things about me when I use the phrase one thing about me. So if you'd like to just keep a running total of how many times I say that during this episode. But one thing about me is I love to tell people to do one thing and then not do it myself. I am very much like, no, I am the special case, that won't work for me. So whilst I have been for years advocating for more transparency online, more authenticity, vulnerability in a way that feels safe, for some reason when it came to me doing it, I was like, I couldn't possibly do that. So I've been knowing that, that my business as is at the moment wasn't quite working for me, and I knew I needed to change, but I also knew it wasn't one of those things I could force. So I've just kind of been dealing with that behind the scenes for ages. Anyway, cut to kind of mid-autumn 2025, and I just decided I can't be bothered to pretend that this isn't going on any longer. So I launched a podcast called Existential Crisis, essentially saying I'm going through a crisis in my business. It feels like a lot of people are too. It started with an Instagram series called Ellie's Existential Crisis, and I was astounded by the number of people in the comments who were saying, God, I've really felt that too this year. I'm going through this. Thanks so much for speaking up on it. And I was like, oh my God, there are so many people going through this. So essentially, I then started a podcast where I spoke to a lot of industry experts for their number one tip, because I was so overwhelmed, but I just wanted one actionable, digestible thing from lots of people from different backgrounds, different verticals, different industries, etc., to share what they would say to this hypothetical person going through a crisis. And the response has been amazing. And I mean, for one, the podcast has been such a fun project. I've absolutely loved it. For two, the content that has come from this has just been flowing so much easier as soon as I removed that internal bottleneck. I was like, oh my God, right, now I just feel so much more connected to what I actually do. And thirdly, can't remember what structure, don't know whether I ABC'd 1, 2, 3'd. Who's
You
to
did
say?
1, 2, 3. I think you're on track.
Look at me go.
Professional.
Finally. I think the decisions and the leaps and bounds I've made in my business in terms of what I'm moving to next have been expedited by acknowledging it and not feeling like I'm living a double life anymore. As soon as I announced it, everything started to become a lot clearer. But it was really scary to publicly admit that the thing you've done for 10 years and that you still love and that you still have paying clients for who you love dearly and love doing work for, that balance of getting that communication right felt like a massive moment of self-trust, of being like, you're just going to have to put this out there, Ellie, and trust that people know what you mean and where it's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. They know the intent behind what you're saying is good. You said that you still love your services right now, like your copywriting stuff, and it's partly what you've always done. So where is there something that you could pinpoint that was how did you know that it wasn't working when it also was externally? It looks like it's working.
Yeah, great question. And I think this is part of the great question. You should do a podcast. I think this was part of the whole crisis, was I didn't know how I felt for the longest time, because I do love writing. It's all I've ever loved. And the clients I worked with are brilliant, and the jobs I was getting were and are brilliant. But so the day-to-day of what I was doing I still loved, but the larger piece, doing vision boarding or thinking about my bigger goals and stuff, that all started to feel a bit sticky and a bit constraining and a bit hard. And one of my motivating factors in life is fun. Running your own business, even if you're not in a period of crisis, is so difficult. I don't want to do this and put all of my energy and effort into something that's hard if it's not going to be fun as well. Life is just too short. And so as soon as it stopped feeling fun, I was like, oh, hang on, I need to change this because I'm in control of this. I need to work out what is not fitting anymore and what I can move towards. And I do think that took me a long while to pinpoint that was the difference, because as you say, for ages I was like, I love my clients and I love my work. So like, why is this, I couldn't work out where the disconnect was.
Yeah, it's so tricky, but I feel like there's a point, and spoiler alert, we talk outside of this podcast, and I think it was yesterday we were voice noting and we were saying about the scene in Love Actually where he just goes, enough now, enough now. Was there any specific moment that triggered that enough now? Like, I'm just going to talk about it out loud.
I think it was to be honest, I think it was accumulation of like, I've been feeling like this for so long, and I don't think there was one particular moment that tipped me over the edge. You know, I hadn't, for example, been to see my best friend's wife and like had some placards outside with a picture of Claudia Schiffer on. I hadn't done that.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Watch out, Al. But I think what it was talking about it publicly. I suddenly one day felt like I could do it, and then I did it before I could think about it, like talk myself out of it. That initial, and that's happened twice. I think the initial Instagram post where I was like, I'm having a crisis, and I did that thing where you post it and then you like can't look at your phone for a bit, because I was just so like, I can't believe oh my god, I'm so crazy, I can't believe I've just said that. Wow. So I think that was one of those moments, and then the other like inflection point, I guess, was releasing the podcast and just being like, no, I'm 10 toes down on this crisis now. Like, this is not a blip. Like, this is a crisis. Yeah, so I don't think there wasn't one moment where I was just like, enough. But I do think those are the moments that stick out to me, is where I decided. Although I think actually, ironically, it was that I hadn't decided and I just did it before I could decide. I was just like, well, that's happened. Oh God, it's out now. Can't take it back.
Yeah, I really enjoy actually on almost every episode of the podcast, because I have binged a lot of them. You really keep up this facade of like, this is so hypothetical and it's not actually advice for me at all.
That's because I think I'm really funny. It's like, I'm always like, hypothetically, of course. And everyone's like, yeah, so it's you then. I'm like, no. There's an illusion, hypothetically, for example. And the ironic thing is I've never really been very good at like ideal client work either. So it's so funny that suddenly for the podcast, I'd have this ideal client in mind. He's like, let's say 29, let's say middle class and white, let's say lives in North London and has brown curly hair and is currently wearing a blue and green striped jumper.
Love the jumper.
Thank you. New vintage find. But yeah, everyone is like, so it's you then? And I'm like, I couldn't possibly say. I must protect my source.
Keep it mysterious.
And I am famously a very mysterious person, so that really aligns, I think, with my general vibe.
Yeah, I think everyone says that about you, actually.
Yeah, nobody knows anything about me. As soon as you meet me, I don't immediately just go deep.
I feel like for someone else who's maybe listening to this and hasn't done the scary saying it out loud yet, could you just, I know you've kind of said like on that initial Instagram post, everyone was like, yes, I'm going through this too. Could you give some reassurance, potentially, maybe that's not how you feel, that like the world has not ended and actually it's okay saying it out loud?
Yeah, 100%. And I do, like, as I say, it was not only nice external validation is what I live for. So it was not only nice to get the external validation, but it really did. It felt like, even though I had acknowledged it to myself, the fact that I hadn't acknowledged it publicly, it felt like I was still lying to myself a bit of like, oh, it felt real once I'd told the world. So it really did, I would say actively, not only did nothing crumble around me, but actually it made things better. It immediately opened doors for me, it opened opportunities, it just opened up the mental space that I had for like whatever, deciding and theorising what my next chapter is going to be and solidifying that. But also I do think there are things that people can do to like mitigate the feeling of dread. Like, it's always going to be scary putting yourself out there. That is a huge thing. But I also think that as you well know, because obviously your background is social media, I do think that so often people think that being personable online, like you have to just like trauma dump and like mine your trauma for content. And I don't think, I want to be clear that this wasn't that. Like, I was in a very, I'd sent it to pals to be like, do you think this is okay? Can you just double check this for me? Can you make sure the tone comes across well? I'd made sure that I'd communicated with my clients in advance. I'd made sure that nobody was going to be like blindsided by it. So there is understandable when these kind of things feel scary, but if you're doing it in a safe and resourced way, then I think it will only do good things. Like, because you don't want to become that person whose entire Instagram feed is them complaining about their business. That's very common on Threads. I don't know why people do it. Well, I do, because it's for engagement. But, like when people start complaining, not that I was complaining about my clients, but, I was essentially boiling it down to saying what I'm doing now, I don't enjoy, in a roundabout way, which could be taken as complaining.
No, I think it's full circle to what you said at the beginning of like, you do still love the work you're doing. It's just there was something.
Yeah. And I just had to like back myself to know that thing. And that has, to answer your original question, I'm so grateful to myself for taking that leap and doing that. So I would encourage anybody to do that if they feel up to it.
I'm sure this isn't the first time you've had to like have that trust in yourself and do the scary thing. But do you feel like having been through this experience, at least for the short term, until the next crisis inevitably comes along, because that's what happens as business owners. But do you feel like it's strengthened? Is that the word? Strengthened your self-trust for going forward?
Yeah, 100%. I really do. And I think it's also like, yeah, I think that's exactly it. It has really strengthened my belief in my own abilities and my knowledge of like what I'm comfortable doing and what I'm capable of doing. I think that's the main thing, because as you say, like, it's not the first time I've trusted myself. You don't go into business without trusting yourself. Like, you have to back yourself to go into to set up your own business. But it's so funny that like recency bias is that I started my business a decade ago in a very different life situation, and I don't even remember that feeling sticky. And I'm sure it did at the time. Like, I'm absolutely certain it did, because I didn't have many friends who were going self-employed. Like, all of my friends were training to be these incredible and like illustrious careers of like lawyers and doctors and like, you know, amazing job titles that not only did people know what they did, but they know that they were doing good. And so in amongst like all of my best friends and the people I love most in the world doing this, I was like, I think I'm just going to sack it all off and go into the wedding industry as a copywriter. Who needs a pension? Like, literally, who needs one? Turns out, still not me. Don't have one. Well, I do, but it's going to last me, I would say, maybe 3 months come the rapture. Anyway, so yeah, I do think it's been really nice to connect with all of the years of past me in my business and remember that I've been doing this thing for a long time and that I can weather the storm, and that, as you say, like, future crises will exist. That's just life. But that it's just evidence gathering, isn't it? That like, you've survived it, you can do it again. And also to be able to, I mean, I think I'm still in the crisis, really. Like, I don't think I'm out of the woods yet, but once I am, it'll also be useful to look back and work out what, you know, just like look at the situation with a more objective eye and then think about like, okay, what did that teach me and how can I take that going forward so that I don't have the same crisis again, you know? Yeah.
I was going to use that exact phrasing of like evidence gathering. It's just more proof that you can do the hard thing in the future.
Exactly. And it's like, which is so, and I do think there's something to be said for that being for the public element of this, is that it's not something I can trick myself into being like, oh, well, it wasn't actually that bad. Like, I've got evidence of me being like, guys, I'm having a crisis. I created a whole podcast about it. Like, clearly that was, you know, that was something that really was taking me in the moment. And it was like, as you well know, it was my every waking thought. Like, every time I voice noted you, I was like, hey, bestie, just talking about my crisis. Oh, just back to my crisis. And then we'd talk about something in the middle and I'd be like, just back to the crisis. And I really don't want to lose sight of that, because I think to lose sight of that means that I could like immediately diminish what I have, you know, the trust that I put in myself. And I don't want to diminish that, because I think it's worth remembering for, you know, for the future.
A huge pro and con of doing it out loud. And actually, something you said before, you don't feel like you remember starting the business feeling sticky. And I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like, am I losing the plot? Because same, I don't feel like actually starting Social by Neo was scary, but it must have been. Whereas doing this stuff is like, you're doing it in public, you're doing it visibly. Which I mean,
I do think there's part of that, which is like, when you start a business, especially because you had, you know, you started yours on the side of a different career, didn't you, for a while, as did I. I started mine in uni, actually, which I did not attend. So basically it was my full-time job, but it paid nothing. But I think that is it. Obviously, it is. You are sticking yourself out on a limb when you do that, but it's not actually. It's a different type of fear. I think your panic isn't that people are going to see you publicly fail. It's that you're going to try something and not like it, and it might be a bit embarrassing. But it's not like, you know, once you're 10 years, 6 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years in, whatever, and you've built a public platform and these kind of things. That's, I think, a completely different, like, all-consuming visibility fear, which is huge. So I do think part of it is recency bias, but also part of it is that it wasn't the same kind of all-encompassing, all or nothing kind of, you know, like 10 years ago I was still employable. Now if this fails, horrendously, heinously unemployable. Like, I'd be the personality hire. That is all I would be. I have no skills.
What a great hire you would be.
Exactly. And I really do think I would bring vibes. And I've always said this, why can't I just be paid to be me? I have literally always maintained that. So, yeah. But yeah, I look back on like setting up the business and being like, oh God, look at her go. But at the time I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm sure we did feel scared. But,
yeah,
you know, looking back, we can be proud of our little selves. Thank you so much for sharing your STS with us. It sounds a little bit like STD though, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Do you know, it's so weird. I hadn't heard it until you just said it. And then I was like, oh shit, yeah, that
I think
is.
it's hearing it out loud because I put it in my calendar as STS and written down it was fine. But then when you said it out loud, I was like, don't know about that.
Fine, my self-trust story. Let's go for the big full name. Why are we giving it its full Christian name? What's it done wrong?
I think it just deserves its full Christian name.
Also, ironic of me to say that when my entire business name is my full Christian name, which neither of my parents call me and which they actually don't even pronounce the same way. Like, I literally don't know what my name is because my mum calls me Eleanor and my dad calls me Eleanor, and then they got divorced. So, like, I want to speak about full Christian names.
Is it any wonder you had the identity crisis in business?
Gotta blame them. I always blame the divorced parents. I've literally always said that.
When we don't even know how to pronounce it, so
I'm like, sorry, do you even know who I am? It's me.
On the podcast in its baby form, I always liked to end with a cheesy quote because I am a collector of cheesy quotes.
You are, that is true. A connoisseur.
I literally have a book filled with post-it notes of cheesy quotes. So, you know, I take my collector status quite seriously. Do you have a favourite quote, phrase, life motto that you would like to end the episode on?
I do. I have, like, there are so many. And I think when you're in the small business, like, I will day after day after day see things that I think are so brilliant, and I'll screenshot them, and I've got folders full of them. I've got posters of them. Like, I can look to my right and see at my desk I've got a poster that says work hard and be nice to people, and there's one that says let's get rich and pay our taxes. Like, I'm sat in front of a banner that says give me a try. Like, I love words. It is as previously discussed, it is where I'm at. However, I'm going to take this on a bit of a tangent, and I wonder if you know what's coming. But there is something to me about the finding quotes in really unexpected areas. And so, and I have said this before and I'll say it again, goddammit, Pitbull is one of the greatest motivational speakers on the planet. And I am so serious. I'm so deadly serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Like, I love him. And I just think you could take any of his lyrics and you'd immediately feel better. However, the one that I think translates best as a motivational quote is, this for everybody going through tough times. Believe me, been there, done that. But every day is a good day. Every day above ground is a good day. Remember that. And I just think, wow, you know?
It's actually quite emotional when you...
right. I know you're taking the piss, but it actually is. Oh, okay, fine.
I'm not.
Fine.
I love cheesy quotes.
I really think he just captures the essence of, like... Well, I don't think he does this intentionally. I think he's incredibly earnest, which I love. But I think the entire Pitbull cult, which I am proudly a member... I think it captures the essential silliness of, like, how ridiculous life is and how we've just got to grab it and do what we want and be kind to ourselves. And I really do think that's what Pitbull's all about. I think that's what life's all about. And that is my legacy, I've decided, on this podcast.
What a way to end. Thank you so much for being the first guest and being such a gorgeous guest.
I've loved it. Thank you so much.
And for anyone who wasn't keeping a tally, and also just for your FYI, Ellie, you only did one, if there's one thing you need to know about me.
I feel like I did at least 5. Let the record state.
I mean, I started a tally and I only wrote down 1, but maybe I'm wrong.
We need an independent adjudicator stat. We're too close to the situation.
We do. If anyone wants to DM me and correct me on that, then, you know.
Also, if anybody wants to DM me random Pitbull lyrics out of context, I would love that, because I really do think some of them don't. I wouldn't say some of them achieve cheesy quote status. For example, my girl got a big old booty. Yeah, your girl got a little booty. Oh no.
What do you mean? I've got that on my wall.
I've got it tattooed on my forehead.
Where can the listeners find you? Because obviously everyone is going to want to find you. If they don't already know you, then they need to, because you have brought so much joy to my life in the last 2 years. Not to get all emotional, but, you know, you started it with Pitbull. So where can people find you?
They can often find me ranting on voice note in your WhatsApps if they can't access that. Yep. That is where I'm commonly found. My Instagram is Eleanor _ Molly. My website is eleanormolly.co.uk. I'm also on Threads. And I have a newsletter where I send weekly musings, updates, chats. I have a section called VIP, which is very important to personality, where I show inspiration of who's showing their personality on the internet well. Yeah, I would love to see you. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to chatting about Pitbull, essentially.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I will put links to find Ellie in the description, but it's just nice to end on that little spiel, isn't it? So thank you, Ellie.
Thank you.